Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So I hope everyone is doing okay this Monday evening, I'm sorry. Just checking my sound. I always check it once I start. Yes, good. Or at least I try to. Yeah, I hope everyone is doing okay this Monday. This evening, coming on, I have Cynthia McKinney. That is going to be an amazing conversation. She's fascinating to me. She's been in the political apparatus on the other side, and yet she's come out holding her shape. So I'm curious about this, and she's within my political awareness, meaning I remember when she was in office. So that's awesome, and I appreciate her coming on. Elizabeth Voss is coming on Wednesday. Both of those should be extremely good. She's going to be talking about what's taking place with Julian Assange and him essentially being imprisoned in the embassy, them cutting off communications with the outside world. His mom has been an extreme advocate on his behalf, pushing for, to get her son released. So Elizabeth Voss has been keeping the pulse on that, and I definitely want to talk about it. Today, though, signs of resistance, real resistance. I don't know how real it is, meaning I don't know how long it's going to take to bud, but it seems like a kernel of something that may turn into something awesome. Hopefully, it's not 20 years before it does. Let me ask you this. What is the point of politics? I've asked this question before because I like to try to get to the root of the matter when I'm talking about a particular issue. And I try to give the context in a way I'm looking at it and how I weigh and measure it and how my world is, how I set this up when I'm thinking about an issue and talking about an issue. So let's start here. What is the point of politics? We have all of these various groups, these demographics in our societies. And how do you interact with one another without chaos? Meaning, how do you organize your affairs? One group wants something, somebody else wants something else. The belief is that there are limited resources. How do you, as a government, organize your affairs in a way that doesn't necessarily devolve into utter chaos? You play a game. You come up with a mental map and everybody agrees to the game. Implicit agreement to the game. You implicitly agree because you've been born in society, you've been raised in a society, you've gone through an education system in a society, and without necessarily people telling you the rules and the laws and everything else, you already know that you need to obey. Obey. It drills into you as a child. You don't necessarily have to even bump it about it. You just know it. It's there. It feels real. It feels solid. It feels like you can even put your hands on it. This is all a mental fiction. But yeah, it's there nonetheless. The point of the politics is to mail these varying disparate groups. The people who want X versus the people who want Y, and so that doesn't necessarily devolve into chaos. The political parties themselves, the edifice of government, these rules that are designed to try to keep a certain level of fairness throughout the society amongst the groups and give a fair, or not fair, but a rule set by which people play the rules by. I would say the rule set is not all that fair, but nevertheless, it's a rule set that people engage with and interact with in order to try to promote their particular affairs. The thought being that if you can get the rest of the country behind you, then the predominance of what the country wants is what gets affected through the political apparatus. The country wants X. The political people who are supposed to be the avatars of what the country wants instigates X. That's not the way politics works now in real life. Or you could say it works that way for maybe the top 1%. It doesn't work that way for everyone else. We're not a united country. We've never been a united country. In fact, there have always been these kind of divisions and sections in the country. One of the divisions that people don't necessarily pay attention to in the United States is this thing of the top 1% versus everybody else. In fact, it is, when you're talking about political apparatus, that apparatus runs on cash. That's the problem with the apparatus. It runs on cash. If you want to get elected, you need a mound of cash to get elected. You need to be a Scrooge McDuck swimming in gold coins. Or at the very least, a Scrooge McDuck swimming in gold coins needs to be giving you some of those gold coins for you to actually get elected. It's our system. Now, you know for yourself, if you're at work, do you blow off what the boss says? The boss is giving you cash. How is this all that different from the political situation where politicians spend 75% of their time begging for cash? What do? Do you ignore the will of the people who are giving you the cash, or do you lean in the direction of the people who are giving you the cash? This is somewhat of a straightforward logic thing. You're, of course, going to lean in front of the people who are giving you the cash, with the exception of pitchforks. Fact is, regardless of the 1% giving cash and everything else, it still fails the public opinion. Meaning, if enough of the public is behind it, if enough of the public putting its will and energy into getting something done, the pitchfork thing, the dollars thing, becomes less relevant because those people can be voted and dragged out of office. But without pitchforks, you have dollars. Meaning, under normal circumstances, it's the dollars that is infused into our system. The majority of the public, the overwhelming majority of the public knows this, hates this, and yet still pushes and props up this particular political system. If you go person to person and you ask them what they want in their society, I would guarantee you that the majority of them is not seeing what they want affected in their society. The majority of the public leans to the left. Maybe not as far left as I am, but it leans to the left, meaning there are a lot of policy positions that neither party represents. The majority of the public is not into this thing of war. Well, the parties tend to be. The majority of the public is not into this thing of they want the government to have some level of involvement in healthcare, meaning they want governmental healthcare. They may debate on how to get that done, but at the very least, they understand that how we do healthcare in this country is a massive fail. Education. Even I would go with this thing of from the standpoint of even guns, even from the standpoint of poverty. There are a lot of right-wingers who don't necessarily like this idea of Democrats and everything else in poverty because they don't believe them. They think they're full of shit. They may not necessarily have any issue if they knew their money was going to a better cause, but they don't necessarily believe the money and the government is using it wisely. They will be correct that the government is not necessarily using it wisely. They would be wrong in thinking that the Republican Party is the option for this. The point I'm trying to make here is that the point of government and the people who are supposed to be representatives, the philosophical point, not necessarily the way it's acted in real life, is to get shit done. The public wants something. They put in people from the representative government standpoint. Those people are avatars of the will of the public, or supposed to be. From the philosophical point of view, they're supposed to be that way. Meaning they're enacting legislation that the public wants. That's not how it works in reality. I've held this campaign of no. This campaign of no. Essentially saying, I'm done. Nothing changes as long as you're putting your energy within this particular party system. You vote for the people who represent your interests. Now, apparently, there have been some Democrats in one of the counties. What's the name of this county? It's an odd name. It's like Kamatoga. Chemung County in New York that has taken up that banner and to some minor degree has agreed with me. The Democratic Party wanted these guys to sign a loyalty pledge, a blanket, blunt loyalty pledge that they will support whoever the party comes up with in their particular county. And they said no. They said, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that at all. They've not just watered it down. You still had some of the Democrats who were there still saying, I don't care what they put into this bylaws. I'm going to support whoever I want to support. You're not going to force me to support some random candidate. Their reasoning is right on and their reasoning is straightforward. The whole point of politics is to get stuff done. Just because the party puts up some random asshole doesn't necessarily mean you need to support that random asshole if that random asshole is not supporting the interests that you want. The point of politics is to get stuff done. The point of politics is for the people who are in the representative government to be the avatars of the public backing them. The millions of people that put them in that office, that gave them money, that supported them. That's the point of politics. If the party is putting somebody up that doesn't meet that need, then what's the point of supporting that particular person? That is essentially what the people are saying from the lefties who are in this particular group saying, yeah, we're not doing that. That's a no. That's a fail. That's dead on arrival. We're not doing that. We're here to get stuff done. Just because you guys put up some random guy doesn't necessarily mean we're going to support that random guy. That's not why we're here. That's not why the people put us here. And that is not even the philosophical point of politics. I love it. Let's take a look at this. Let's go into the story. This is the Intercept. Democrats in a New York county refuse to pledge loyalty to candidates just because the party endorses them. Good to them. A county Democratic committee in New York voted down an extreme proposal on Tuesday night that would have required all members to pledge loyalty to candidates endorsed by the state, local, and national party. Think about that. This is across the board. You need to pledge loyalty to any Democrat that the party endorses and puts their weight behind. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's essentially a cult. That's not a party at that point. That's a cult. Progressives on the committee in Chemung County on Pennsylvania border view the proposal's loyalty pledge as an attempt by establishment Democrats to silence their dissent. They spent the week leading up to the meeting organizing opposition from members of the 20-person committee. At the meeting, the committee voted down the oath in its current format, but did not get rid of it entirely. First, we voted on removing that paragraph entirely, and we lost, said Deb Lynch, first vice chair of the committee. Then we voted on rewriting it in a way that was palatable to everyone in a month. So that's where we're at. The controversy started last week when Jim Carr, the party chair, sent an email to the executive committee announcing that they've convened Tuesday, an hour before they've already scheduled Chemung County Democratic meeting. The agenda was consists of one thing, Carr wrote, a newly proposed code of ethics for all committee members to sign and related to changes to the bylaws. The Committee of Ethics document, which seemed to come out of the blue, proposed that all committee members promise to be loyal to the Chemung County Democratic Committee by supporting the activities and candidates' endorsements by the CCDC, state or national Democratic committees. Such examples of disloyalty include, but not limited to, activities such as displaying political signs or other activities for candidates opposing Democratic candidates. This also includes any form of social media. Think about this. Think about what they're trying to get them to sign on to. We don't want you to say squat. We don't want any dissent. We don't want you to be annoyed by whoever we pick up. We don't want any signs of disloyalty at all. We want perfect unity. That's amazing. That's amazing. We want you to shut the fuck up. Not only are we trying to get you out of the race when we don't necessarily like who you are, not only are we trying to make the choice on who we want to decide. The Democratic Party has a problem with being democratic. That's what it seems like. I mean, ultimately, they're putting their thumb on a scale all across the United States for candidates before the public gets a choice. Meaning, before the public says, this is a person that we want, the Democratic Party has already made its choice on who it wants and has put its thumb on a scale to get that person in, then turning around saying, well, that's the best choice. Well, it's the best choice because you put your thumb on the scale to make that person the best choice all throughout the United States. In some cases, they're putting fringe candidates in the Republican Party, propping them up to try to get those candidates to exceed the primaries, believing that people like Joe Manchin would lose unless he was going against a goofball. Dianne Feinstein, Heitkamp did the same thing in her state. I think it's North Dakota. Look, what I'm saying is, this is a party that has gone so far off the rails that in order to propagate itself, it has a workable point of view and is trying to espouse that point of view all throughout the United States, even when it loses. Even when that point of view is being utterly rejected. You've lost 1,100 seats. How do you lose this much and still say, I still want another turn at the bat? Give me the ball. I want to make another shot. And instead of dealing with what's wrong with him, why they missed those shots, why they can't get it into the net, why they're such a fuck up, why people like them so much, how this rapacious, repugnant group of Republicans, they can't even beat them. Instead of evaluating why all of these things seem to be taking place from the standpoint of the things that are assailing the party, instead of interrogating this from this internal standpoint of what's wrong with us, why do people hate us this much? Why have the working class abandoned us? Why have many of the union members left us? How come so many of these blacks left us? How come all of these people, like 30% of the people who voted for Obama, abandoned us? Why do we lose so much? That's the question that you need to answer. But instead of dealing with that question, instead of getting to the heart of the matter of why you fail so much, why you fuck up so much, no, your response to this is, we need party loyalty. We need to put our thumb on the scale, and we need you to get behind the fact that we're putting our thumb on the scale and we don't want any dissent. That's called a cult. That's called a cult. That's not a party. And that's one of the most undemocratic things that I think I've ever heard. I understand Republicans are rigging the ballots from the standpoint of this kind of election fraud, fucking around with interstate cross-check. But this is different. This is you putting your thumb on the scale in the party apparatus itself. You're giving it the fig leaf that this is some kind of real democratic process when you're putting your thumb on a scale in a democratic process. You're effectively rigging the process in order to get your particular point of view in office all throughout the United States. That is not democratic. That is something else. That is utterly something else. And you're trying to get these people to sign on to it with a loyalty oath. Good on you for shooting that down. Sidney Emmer, another Chemung County Democratic Committee member, sent the language at Carr's request. Both Emmer and Carr sit on the New York State Democratic Committee, a body that is closely aligned with New York Governor Cuomo, who is facing a primary challenge from the left. Emmer and Carr did not respond to the Intercept's request for comments. It's totally undemocratic and unconstitutional to tell me I need to support a Democrat even if they don't display democratic values. Right there, Lynch said. This has nothing to do with party loyalty. It has to do with the establishment wing of the party not understanding why some of us are still upset about the 2016 primary. No, you misunderstand. It's not that they don't understand it. They don't care. There's a difference in those things. They don't care. There's no reason for them to care. Because, let's be honest, at the end of the day, you're still part of the party. You're still there. You're still a Democrat. You still vote Democrat, regardless of them cheating you and everything else. Until you're willing to pull yourself out of that political space, meaning supporting the party in this way, nothing changes. There's no reason for it to change, because at the end of the day, despite the cheating and everything else, you're still there. Loyalty oaths aren't totally uncommon for officials who serve on political committees, but they are typically only support for candidates outside the party. The Washington County Democratic Committee in New York, for example, recently established a policy that says all committee members must pledge to support only Democratic candidates. That is a lot different than what is being discussed in Chemung County, says Jay Bellica, first chair for Washington County Democrats. They're making the point that it's one thing to say we must support somebody in the party itself. It's another thing to say you must support the person who is put up by the local, state, or whatever Democratic Party establishment. The Democratic Committee in Tioga County, New York, next door to Chemung County, has also language around party loyalty in its bylaws since the 2011, but it's not clear what it means in practice. Reach for comment, Diane Letcher, the committee chair, would not answer the Intercept's questions about how her committee defines loyalty. I love this. Look, I'm putting this article here for you to read because I don't want this one to go too long. Are these beginning signs that some of these people are beginning to wake up saying, this is bogus, this is nonsense, we're not going to get what we need out of the party? Or is this just people who are somewhat to the left, who are just going to take a beating and be the political abuse spouse and continue to be the politically abused spouse? I don't know. But nevertheless, they have my agreement. My only agreement would be is if they pull themselves out of the process and say, we're not supporting you in the way that you're going about your affairs. What is this? Oh, wow. Joshua Renshaw. Speaking of solidarity of no, YouTube has added to their algorithm, taking into effect, flagging videos as not interested. Daily reminder to ensure you help to defund mainstream media advertising by removing them from your feed. Oh, good one. Joshua, yes, agreed. Essentially saying, I'm not interested in mainstream media stuff. I'm interested because I need to. I use it for footage. But oh, and here's one for Jamal. As I know, Progressive Voice gets the first. Oh, that's funny. I'm never going to live that down. Trudy, nothing we do will matter until we take to the streets en masse, which is what Bernie has been saying in effect. So, Trudy, I agree with you, but I agree with you in two parts. Take it to the streets en masse doesn't really do anything from the political space standpoint. To what end? Taken to the streets, to what end? Political pressure to me is pulling yourself out of that apparatus to say, I'm done. You're not representing my interests. You're not representing the left. I'm done. You're a corporate husk of parties. For whatever what you say, you may be a tiny bit worse or least worse, but that's just your political game. The whole point is not this mass incrementalism or radical incrementalism. The point is to get shit done. And if the party itself is so beholden to corporate interests, if it's so beholden to this 1%, because it needs that 1% to get elected, or because it has that worldview of that 1%, the nation not get your support. You have workers and you have plutocrats in the same party. The plutocrats are given a ton of cash, and the workers are working. They're doing their jobs, they're taking care of their kids, and they're not necessarily paying attention to the politics. So ultimately what you end up with is just dollars. Dollars. Here's money in your G-string. Hit Chuck Schumer in the ass. Dance. Go out there and dance. Shake it, Chuck. Shake it. Shake it. Show me some ass cheek, Chuck. That's what you end up getting. That's effectively what you end up getting. Occupy, you mean the central government cracking down and destroying a democratic grassroots movement. Scott Trinkle, yeah, that's exactly what happened. Under the Obama administration, by the way. Like when you hear Democrats say, well, I mean, people should have rose up and pushed the Obama administration forward. What was Occupy? What was Occupy Wall Street? And then what made it so bad, Obama took the rhetoric of some of the Occupy Wall Street and used this in his political campaign and didn't do shit. Used it purely for a political stunt in the same way the hope of change was political. 1% versus 99%. What became of it? That's what I'm asking, Trudy. What became of it? All of those people took to the streets. Nothing came of it. You got the language, yes, but what actually tangibly became of it? The Democratic Party cracked down on Occupy Wall Street, meaning the Obama administration's Justice Department. And it disintegrated. And now you have Trump. I'm not saying those things are related. I'm just saying it's not enough. Like the going to the streets is not enough. The pretending, the political apparatus is not here. Yeah, that doesn't get you anywhere. Whether you're into politics or not, that political apparatus is there. And to some degree, you do have to play that game of dealing with that apparatus. The question becomes, what is the strategy to deal with the political apparatus? Taking to the streets is nice. Pulling yourself from the political system. Getting across that the political party can fail if you're interested in taking the Democratic Party, meaning for those people who think they can board the ship and all this other stuff. At the end of the day, the Democratic Party knows they have your support. They can put their thumb on you. They can essentially slap you and beat you and all that stuff because at the end of the day, they know you're still there. I call you the equivalent of an abused spouse in a political context because I think that's what you are. You have lefties who whine constantly, oh, the Democratic Party is hitting me. Oh, they're slapping me. Oh, they're hitting me. I don't know what to do. You have all these people whining and bitching and moaning about what the Democratic Party is doing. And yet they're still Democrats. They're still Democrats. He beats me. He slaps me. He throws me down. He has sex with the maid. He doesn't wash his hands when he makes a sandwich. He doesn't wash his hands when he touches my face. And yet I'm still here. The crack-addicted, drug-addict boyfriend is the crack-addicted, drug-addict boyfriend because there's always going to be a lefty or progressive in the Democratic Party to give him a ham sandwich and to make sure he's okay so he can remain a crack-addicted, drug-addict boyfriend. Nothing changes until you leave. That crack-addicted, drug-addict boyfriend has a stroke and dies in convulsions on the floor or changes. What I'm trying to get at, if you really, really are interested in saving the Democratic Party, your best bet is to leave the Democratic Party. Just saying. Just saying. Jay Scott, you guys think donors care who wins or loses? That's your problem. You think Democrats care if you say no? That's your problem. Jay Scott, Democrats do care if we say no. Because whatever you want to say about them, their job is getting elected. That's the point. Your argument doesn't make sense. What I mean is, if the political system runs on cash, which it does, then you have to ask, why are Democrats beholden to the political system, or why are Republicans beholden to this kind of corporate system at the back end? They want the money. But what do they want the money for? They don't want the money to play golf and to play tiddlywinks. They wanted to get elected. The pull, the tug that they have on the political apparatus is that these people want to get elected. Do plutocrats care who gets elected? No. Does the party person cares whether they get elected? Yes. Yes. The individual cares. Yes, they do care if they get elected. Basil Peterson, we do not live in a democracy. This is an oligarchy. The empire of illusion needs revolution. Basil Peterson, I agree. Look, it's funny. Garnome said I'm a moderate because I believe more in the political system than others. I do believe more in the political system. I believe just because it's captured now doesn't necessarily mean it stays captured. You do need mass uprising. Yeah, I agree. But it needs to be somewhat targeted in how you go about it. And that Occupy Wall Street thing, I'm sorry, it's not going to work. Not by itself. If you're talking about taking to the streets and blowing shit up, maybe you're going to lose the moral high ground. But pretending the political apparatus is not there doesn't get you anywhere. I would, and I'm not the only one who thinks this way. Chris Hedges, same thing. Chris Hedges has made the argument that people need to go into the streets. Chris Hedges has also made the point that it needs to follow up with political movement. You need both. That's my only point. You need both. Not electing Democrats, or at the very least being willing to tell them no, openly, loudly, clearly, whether they lose in a big splashy pattern, and they lose in a big splashy pattern because they were made to lose by a lefty who decided to either run against them or challenge. That's work. That's change. That's a political revolution. That's change. All of these lefties who are complaining about being cheated should run in the main election. That's showing your teeth. If that Democrat loses, that Democrat lost because that lefty got into the race. That's consequence. Now, in all these other cases where lefties are whining and complaining and moaning, oh God, the Democratic Party is treating me so poorly. I don't understand why they're treating me so poorly. They're not being fair. It's not about being fair. It's about winning. It's about winning. Stop complaining, stop whining, and do something about it that actually makes some difference. Tim Canova running as an independent does something different. That makes a difference. If that Democrat loses, then the Democratic Party should not have cheated Tim Canova. And actually, that's Deborah Wasserman-Schultz. Each lefty across the country should do the exact same thing. Bashar al-Assad, Bernie Sanders is so obviously status quo. I can't believe people still fall for the grandstanding. He's not status quo, dude. You think because he's against Trump. Look, let me say this. Assume for the moment that the normal Democrat-Republican operating system doesn't apply here. Make that assumption for the moment. Assume for the moment that a person can greatly dislike Trump. I greatly dislike Trump. Assume for the moment that they believe Trump is a major threat. And in believing Trump is a major threat, they align themselves with the Democratic Party thinking that this is the only boat. It's burning, but at the very least, it's the only boat that I got. And pivots with them in order to attack Trump. Assume for the moment that in believing that Trump is a major threat, and assuming that the other party is the only thing that I have in opposition, meaning Sanders, that he toes a particular line in coordination with the party in order to attack Trump because he believes Trump is a larger threat. I mean, that doesn't make him status quo. Like all of the policies that he's putting out, the job guarantee, I don't know if he said anything about a UBI, but the college, healthcare, expanding Social Security, none of those things were on the agenda. I guess all I'm saying is, if we're talking about Sanders, be honest. And what I mean, and somebody else said, I don't mean that you guys are lying. I mean, intellectually honest. It's this thing of recognizing that, no, I don't particularly like some of the things that he did. Yes, he put these things on the map. And seeing as nobody was talking about the Medicare for all, seeing as nobody was talking about the graduation thing, seeing as nobody was calling the stuff that was taking place abroad illegal. I mean, come on. You got to give him credit. You got to give him credit. Be fair. Mark P, they beat us through politics. Mark Panoki, YouTube often waits till after I watch a video to send a notification about now. Joshua Renshaw, how do J. Scott? This isn't an echo chamber like you used to where all ape each other thoughts like you're used to. Sorry, not sorry. Echo chamber, no. I mean, echo chamber for who? Echo chamber for who? J. Scott, you're just mad because you voted for Hillary Clinton. Trudy, Occupy Wall Street is just a drop in the bucket of what we need in the streets left after New York primary, but until we have the numbers show up in the streets, we won't show our power to elect. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Kind of. I look, my feeling with it, I like a good protest as much as the next person. I'm a lefty. So this thing of political dissent runs through my veins. I voted for Ralph Nader before I even was politically awake. So I had a certain disposition even before I knew that I had a certain disposition. It's not that I'm against the protests. It's just the left has this weird quirk where they think just because they're in the streets, that stuff gets done. It doesn't work that way. I mean, I don't know the numbers that you're talking about, but people have jobs. People are stressed to make a living. Most people, the majority of people in this country, if they got hit with a $500-600 bill, wouldn't be able to pay it. They're like some kind of emergency payment. Half of the people are either low wage or in poverty. Do people have the political wherewithal and even the space to leave their jobs and to go in streets en masse? Now, beyond that, would going in streets en masse change things? I guess I want to say Occupy Wall Street was a major movement. It wasn't just in New York. It was all across the you can make an argument all across the world. And despite it being such a major movement, and there for God knows how long, and in the public eye for God knows how long, it fizzled away. And I guess the point that I'm making to you, it fizzled away because it didn't translate into political gains. It didn't dig into the political system because lefties were like herding cats. That said, the Tea Party definitely made inroads because they were politically astute. Trudy, I'm just saying we need to recognize our numbers. Yes, Trudy, that I agree with you on. That I agree with you on, Trudy. Absolutely, totally. Chance cycle. Same with positioning a hashtag. People think that to contribute when they join a trending hashtag, it's a false and effective strategy. Yeah, I just don't want people to fizzle away their time or fizzle away their energy on stuff that is not necessarily going to make political gains. I saw Occupy Wall Street, and I thought, this is awesome. And then it goes away, and you're like, okay, what happened? And then, political power, political might. We need civil disobedience, not in the streets protest necessarily. Anna Stansell. Robert Pouquet-Ray, I'm working so much I can barely get a haircut. Shit. Right. Mizzy Dizzy, Israel killed 37 peaceful protesters, though. No, you're wrong. They killed 52. They killed over 52. When I looked in the morning, it was 52. 1,200 wounded. Mark Pinocchi, I've been talking a lot about these survey sites are quoting for polling purposes, and most are the same questions with one or two differences. None of them mention progressive candidates, though. Bernie is an insincere shill. Bashar al-Assad. I disagree, but okay. Nikki M. Mrizzy Dizzy, I heard 52. Yeah, it was 52. It was 52 last I looked. Guys, thank you for coming. I may have a show tonight, so I don't necessarily know if I'm going to do too many shows today, but fuck, there is one I want to do. There's really one that I want to do. The Pentagon lost track of $20 trillion. $20 trillion. 21 trillion, I'm sorry. They lost track of $21 trillion. I want to do that video because people are bitching and moaning about, oh God, how much would a federal job guarantee cost? Oh God, how much would it cost to send people to college? Oh God, how much would it cost to pay our teachers fairly? All of these things. They complain and bitch and moan about. The Pentagon lost $21 trillion. I'm going to leave this here. You guys have an awesome evening. And let's see. Joshua, Trudy, and Basil. Guys, thank you very much. Yes, I often feel weird, and I know that comes across during the super chats, but I do appreciate it. It helps the channel like nobody's business. Ultimately, your support essentially keeps the channel going. Seeing as most of all these videos get demonetized, especially when we're talking about war. They demonetized the video talking about Star Trek. Think about that shit. it's like Odo something, and I look up and it's like this video is demonetized. It's like, you demonetize a video about Star Trek? My point is, guys, thank you very much. You help make the show. You help make the show on two fronts. The stuff that you send me, I guess the chats themselves, meaning the people who visit the chats and who come to the chats, the likes, the shares, all that stuff. I appreciate it like nobody's business. The patrons and the super chats. You guys help the show. You guys allow the show to keep going. So, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I will probably see you guys, knowing me, shortly. But if I don't see you shortly, by 9:30 this evening, I will have Cynthia McKenna on the show. McKinney. And that would be an amazing interview, seeing that she was behind the scenes in the political apparatus itself. And it would be interesting to hear stories. So, all right, guys. You all have a good one. And if you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support the Patreon. Thanks, guys.